Okay. Here we go. All right, so right before lunch, we did 90 degrees. And what was special about 90? Straight up, right? So we do a circle, right? We found X, Y, and R, all right? So now we're going to do the same thing because where is negative 180? Negative 180. You guys are late. Where is negative 180? Negative goes this way, right? So where would 180 be? Right here. This is negative 180. Interestingly enough, it's also positive 180. Doesn't make any difference which way you go. If you're going 180, you're going to end up over there. All right, so it's on an axis. Draw my circle. Pick a radius. I'm going to pick 1. So my radius is 1. Charlie, the radius is like the hypotenuse. It is always positive. All right? Now, tell me this point over here. Here's the origin. If I come left 1, then what will be that point? What will be his coordinates? Not 1, 0. Negative 1, 0. Right? Negative 1, 0. Think of a piece of graph paper. So, x is negative 1, y is 0, and r is 1. Now I'm ready to fill all these in. What is sine? Well, what else? I don't have a triangle, so I can't really do that. Y over r. So y over r will be 0. What's cosine? X over r, negative 1. And what is tangent? Y over x, which is, when are we undefined? When 0 is in the denominator. Guys, can't have a 0 in the denominator. Okay, what about this one now? What are you going to do with this one? We're going to change, I got to draw 3 pi over 2, and if I know where that is, great, but if I don't, I need to change it into degrees, and how do I do that? So 3 180s divided by 2 is 270. So I make 270, which is down here. On the axis, so I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to let my radius be 1. And now I'm going to figure out that point. So here's my origin. I'm going straight down 1. So what is that point if I go straight down 1? 0, negative 1. So x is 0, y is negative 1, and r is 1. X, y. So here we go. What's sine again? Sine is y over r. So that'll be negative 1 over 1, which is negative 1. What's cosine? X over r, so that will be 0. And what's tangent? Y over x, which is negative 1 over 0, which is undefined. That one is undefined. Alrighty? Last one. Where is 0? Isn't 0 right here? 90, 180, 270, that's 0 right there. On an axis, so there's my circle. I'm gonna let my radius be 1, because that's what I do. And if that's the case, then what will be my x and y here? I'm going right 1.
X is 1, Y is
1, 0. It's like plotting a point on a piece of graph paper. 1, 0. So x is 1 and y is 0. All right, here we go. What's the sign? 0 over 1. Or 0? Cosine. 1 over 1, which is 1. And tangent, 0 over 1, y over x, which is 0. Now notice, with these angles, where we draw the circle and the angles are like 0, 90, 180, 270, those have a name, they're called quadrantal angles. Quadrantal. And notice, what kind of answers do we get for our sine, cosine, and tangent for quadrantal angles? It's either 0, plus or minus 1, or it's undefined. Those are your numbers. That's all you're ever going to get, because you're on that circle. Okie dokie smokies. All right, I think we're near the end of 4.3. This seems like it's been going on forever. All right, so let's see what's going on in part 7. Part 7 is going to make you think. All right, my job is to find the sine and the cotangent. All right, and what do I know? I know the cosine is 2/3, and I know the tangent, it got cut off, but it says less than 0. And what that means is the tangent is negative. Okay, that's what less than 0 means. Okay, now here's where you really got to think. When you see cosine equals 2/3, does this picture pop into your head? Why would that picture pop into my head? Because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, or if you prefer, x over r, the x side over the r side. But here's why this problem is a little bit more thought-provoking. What if I drew this picture? Is that cosine also 2/3? Yeah, and that's the dilemma. Remember, cosine is x over r. If cosine is positive, x is positive. And that happens both of these quadrants, right? X is positive. So right now, based on this, I either have to be in quadrant 1 or I have to be in quadrant 4. Those are my options, okay? So that's when I look at part 2 of the given. Now, that doesn't give me any numbers. All it says is the tangent is negative. Okay, time out. Is anything negative in quadrant 1? No. So this cannot be the right option. That must be my picture. Okay? So what do I need? In order to answer my questions, don't I need to find this side? And how do I do that? We know how to do that. How do I do that? I do the Pythagorean theorem. So 2 squared plus x squared equals 3 squared. So 4 plus x squared equals 9. It looks like x squared equals 5. So what's this? Root 5. But again, be careful. Look where it is. Isn't it negative root 5? Look where it is. Negative root 5. Now I need the sign. Here's your angle. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So the sine is negative root 5 over 3. What's the cotangent? Cotangent is adjacent over opposite, or x over y. So 2 over negative root 5, negative 2 root 5 over 5. There is a lot to think about in this problem. Okay, we're going to get through 2 more. And then we're going to stop. Okay? Here we go, number or letter B. So I am going to find B. I'm going to find secant and tangent. Sorry, I've got the hiccups for some strange reason. All right, so what do I know? I know the sine is 1/5. So if you're like me, you are immediately thinking about this picture. Isn't opposite over hypotenuse 1 over 5? So that makes perfectly good sense. And then here's where the tricky part comes in. Would there be any other triangle I could draw? Think about your butterfly bow tie. Where the sine would be positive 1/5. Right here, guys. Isn't the sign positive there? Now, I know you have a lot to remember, and that's one of the reasons I'm going to quit here soon. But I told you earlier, sine is associated with y. Sine is y over r. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Where is y positive? That is a positive number. Sine is positive. That means y has to be positive. Where does that happen? Isn't y positive here and here? So that's what's going through your mind. Sine is associated with y. If you need it to be positive, which we do, 1/5, then it has to be where y is positive. All right, what else do I know? I know that the cosine is negative. You'll wait a second. Is anything negative in quadrant 2? Or quadrant 1, quadrant 1. Is anything negative? No. So that one's out. Cosine cannot be negative in that quadrant. How about this quadrant? Will cosine be negative? Absolutely, because you're going left. Adjacent is negative. All right, so now we're going to figure out negative what? All right, so call it S. X squared plus 1 squared is 5 squared. Did you get the square root of 24? But that breaks down. So what's the square root of 24? 2 root 6. Negative. it's a lot, you guys. I know it's a lot, but it is what it is. We just gotta power through. All right, let's answer the questions. What's the secant? What is the secant? By definition, what's secant? I heard somebody say R over X. Awesome. It's also hypotenuse over adjacent, whichever way you want to think about it. So R is 5. X is negative 2 root 6. R, X, Y. Now, to clean this one up, you guys, there's nothing wrong with the 2. We're allowed to have 2's at the bottom. We cannot have the root 6. So we're going to have to multiply by just the root 6. The 2 is fine. What happens when I multiply those two things together? What's root 6 times root 6? 6. 6 times negative 2, negative 12 on the bottom, and 5 root 6 on the top. How about tangent? Y over X, opposite over adjacent. So 1 over negative 2 root 6, so we're going to have the same problem. So what are we going to multiply by? Root 6. The top is just going to be root 6. These make a 6, negative 12 on the bottom. 2 times 6. One more. Let's walk through it. I need your help. I need you to be engaged here. We're going to find tangent and cosecant. That's our goal. We know the cosine is a negative number, and we know the tangent is positive. So this is what we know right here. And this is what we're going to figure out. So now I need to figure out where I'm going to draw my picture. Do not draw it in quadrant 1. Tell me why I'm not going to draw a picture in quadrant 1. Because the cosine is a negative number, and nothing's negative in quadrant 1. Now remember, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, or x over r. Doesn't that mean x is negative? R is going to be positive, period, always and forever. So x has to be negative. Where does that happen? Not in quadrant 1. What happens in quadrant 2? Is x negative anywhere else? Quadrant 3, very good. Those of you that are like lost, I want you to open up your brain. And I want you to think about your coordinate system. Where is x negative? Isn't x negative over here? Isn't this where the negative x's are? So I already drew quadrant 2, now I'm going to draw quadrant 3. My picture is going to be either that one or this one. They both have a cosine that's negative. Cosine is x over r adjacent over hypotenuse. which one it is. And it's not both, it's one or the other, I have to decide. So let's look at this piece of information. I know I'm gonna do my Pythagorean theorem, and I know I'm gonna find this missing side. In this picture, won't that side be positive? And in this picture, that side will be negative? Would you agree with that? So in this picture, I don't know what that number is, but it's positive. If I do opposite over adjacent, which is tangent, will that come out to be a positive number? Will this be positive? Yoo-hoo! Positive over negative. Not positive. How about over here? Negative over negative. This is my picture. This is not. This time I'm in quadrant 3. So here we go. I gotta find that side. Negative 3 squared plus x squared equals 5 squared. Looks like I'm getting negative 4 for that side. By the way, I'm taking off points in homework for people who write down things like the square root of 25. Go past that. The square root of 25 is 5. So I'm getting papers that instead of saying 3 over 5, it's saying 3 over the square root of 25, and then you're writing 3 root 25 over 25. No, we're not doing that. 16 is a perfect square, so we're writing 4. 9 is a perfect square, so we write 3. Right, everyone? Agreed? Okay, let's pay attention to what we're doing. Okay, here's my picture. What's the tangent? Look at your picture, here's your angle. What's my tangent? 4 over 3. What's my cosecant? Cosecant. Cosecant? R over y, or hypotenuse over opposite, so that will be negative 5/4. It's a lot. 4.3 due on Monday.